If you've
Our country's in trouble. Something has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, and if we don't have smart leadership, you're going to end up with no world. The world is going to be blown to pieces. We have stupid people now running our country. The world is going to be blown to pieces.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Donald Trump is back in the news. He did a big interview with Piers Morgan. And why am I covering this? Well, it's interesting to hear some of the things he had to say about how the world is going to be blown to pieces. The writing is on the wall, but you have to remember when you hear this, that this is part of the left-right divide. And whether you believe that Trump is going to swoop in here and save the day after some type of catastrophic event occurring before 2024, or whether or not you believe he's the Antichrist, or whether or not you actually believe that he's a good guy. All of it's kind of irrelevant at this point, because the simple fact remains that this is going on and this is going down, and food shortages are going to be coming and power grids are going to be shut off. And it'll be the illusion of a nuclear war, because again, they need to blame something on someone, because if people realize that their own governments had turned against them, if they saw what was going on in China and realized that's exactly what's going on around the world, in Australia, America, all over, then the people would rise up against the tyranny. But since they have a boogeyman, like they always have, they will try to unite people together to go after the boogeyman, of course, in the name of tyranny, because this entire thing will be tyrannical, as it already is. But let's listen to some of the quotes from Donald Trump. He talks about the fact that we're already in a world war, despite people in America being delusional, thinking that what's happening in Ukraine is actually going on, and it's not the government's turning on the citizens of the world. It's really a government world war against the citizens of their countries. But let's listen to some of the quotes, including how the world is going to be blown to pieces. Talk about predictive programming.
I threatened him like he has never been threatened before.
What's your message for Putin now, right now? If you could talk to him, what would you say to him?
I would say it's a shame what you've done. You're killing, I think potentially, look, if these people aren't smart, and they're not, our leaders are not smart. If they're not smart, you're going to end up in a nuclear war. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning. And I've been the best predictor of things ever. Now, it doesn't have to happen. It shouldn't happen. But if our people aren't smart, you're going to end up in a nuclear war.
So what's your message to him?
I think they're dealing with...
If he's watching this interview, and he will be,
look,
what would you say to him?
I think they're dealing with him incorrectly. I think what they're saying, it's almost like they're speaking with fear, and they don't understand. We have one weapon alone that would destroy everything.
Should Putin get out of Ukraine right now?
They should make a deal, and they can make a deal, and they should do it fast. When people look back on this period of time, we're going to be ashamed at what we've done or what we haven't done to stop this catastrophe. This is a catastrophe. This is, in a way, already a world war.
Has Russia made itself, with this invasion, has it made itself an enemy of the United States?
Well, I think two things have happened. Number one, they've proven to be less powerful than we thought. That's a good thing from our standpoint. But at the same time, they have a second degree of weapon that is very powerful. And nobody can be allowed to use it, talk about it, threaten with it. We have more powerful than them. And there would be no Russia. There would be no Russia. But we don't want to talk about that. But when I watch Biden say, oh, he's got nuclear weapons, we can't do this. You can't do that. You know, I confronted Kim Jong-un. And all of a sudden, I got a call. They'd like to meet. It was like, and we met.
When you say confronted him,
and we met in
what did you
Singapore.
say to him?
Well, verbally, I confronted him. You know that. He said, I have a red button on my desk, meaning a nuclear button. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but it's bigger and stronger than yours, and mine works. And they said, whoa, nobody's ever talked to us that way. I took a lot of heat when I said that. Our country's in trouble. Something has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, and if we don't have smart leadership, you're going to end up with no world. The world is going to be blown to pieces. We have stupid people now running our country. The world is going to be blown to pieces.
And of course, he talks about how he's the best predictor ever, right? And that's one of the things. So they're preparing people, because obviously everybody who's on the right hears this, and they believe everything that Donald Trump says, right? They're part of the problem, just like the left's part of the problem. There would be no divide among us if it wasn't for the mainstream media, if it wasn't for the predictive programming in movies, if it wasn't for the groomers in Hollywood who divide the people. That's all that they've been doing for years and years and years. That's what their job has been. And it's worked because we've never seen divide like this. And people are going to be at each other's throats when crap hits the fan, blaming one another for it, for who they voted for, who they put in power, when in reality, nobody put any of these people in power. Satan put them in power. They were self-elected, and they've been self-elected, and we're seeing that going on not just in America, around the world. These people are put in these positions, they're staying in these positions, and they are not leaving these positions. Now, the people who hear this will think, obviously, the stuff that Trump says is true, and it is true. And it's not true because Trump's a great predictor, it's because Trump's in the know. He knows what's going down. This, of course, will incite the right. The right will be livid with the left even more than they already are. And the fact that he's talking about the world being blown to pieces, well, all you have to do is look at what's going on with the government's shutting down food processing plants, with the government forcing fences in China. I mean, all around the world, we are seeing these governments do this to the citizens. And still, because the media points to a boogeyman, everybody out there believes it's a boogeyman. And then you have the people who believe, well, Donald Trump's going to come in and save the day. I've been talking about this since he first got elected, how he's not saving the day. Now, we don't know what the plan is as far as how this is going to go down. Is it going to go down with Biden in office, or is it going to go down with Trump in office? That's really the big question. Or Kamala in office in the next 4 years or so, because it is seemingly building to a Trump versus Putin, two alpha males. That's the gimmick that they've built up, type of world war, right? But in the meantime, America could obviously be go through these things. It could go through a grid shutdown. It can go through a food shortage, and then Trump could come in and save the day. Or they could just keep these incompetent fools, not that Trump isn't either, in power and just pull the plug now. Or the next few months before there's any elections, or the next 2 years before the presidential election, fake election, of course. So those are the things that we have to keep in mind here, but knowing what is going to happen either way is what's most important. It doesn't matter how the seesaw goes, left to right, right to left, because it's all about the seesaw and blaming the other person on the other side. So there's ups and downs with the Democrats, there's ups and downs with the Republicans. And the other side constantly points a finger at the other side, never, ever pointing a finger of blame at all of these world leaders, at all of these people like Klaus Schwab, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the ones who fund it, the Soroses, who fund these global organizations where the political leaders of the world meet and scheme together, because that's what they do. They're schemers. They sit there and they think of ways, and they know every single possible outcome of everything they're going to do. They talk about it. People think like they're just rolling the dice here. They've thought about every single thing that's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and how people are going to react to it, and then what they can do to make people react the way they want them to react. That's what they've been doing for quite some time. That's why the world has been calm, other than a few events here and there that they've created, like in New York City in 2001. Other than that, they've been plotting and planning this, knowing how people are going to react, and then saying, well, how do we get them herded into this to do that, which is what we ultimately want. And eventually, of course, they ultimately want everyone to take the mark. These are the things they're thinking about. So don't think that they're not thinking about us, people who are preppers, people who are armed. They have plans in place. They have plans in place for the Amish. They have plans in place for people who can survive when they do these things to the citizens by being off grid. But they already know what's going to happen to these maniacs who are dependent on the government to take care of them. They know that they're going to fall right into their satanically loving arms. I don't know how else to word that, because they're not loving. Their fake illusion of a caring government, or caring governments around the world. All you got to do is look at China. Go to my website at callfornuprising.com and watch the video I just uploaded about how they're caging people in. Watch videos from my older channels talking about this with self-imprisonments, how your home is going to be your prison cell. They can't imprison the entire country. There's not enough prisons. So they thought of a better plan. We'll make them imprison themselves with technology. They'll film themselves. They'll put devices in their home that will enable us to listen so we can make sure that they're staying in place and staying in line. And if they're not and we hear something, we'll send someone to their front door. What's the point of putting them in a prison cell? We don't need them. We'll just lock them in their homes and they'll feel like they're still free because they'll be in a home that they think that they bought, which they don't even own, and they'll feel they're free because they have some of their toys inside their house, and let them do that and let them be like that, and they'll be our slaves forever. So back to what Trump is talking about here, with the world is going to be blown to pieces. Well, it's going to be blown to pieces because they want it to be blown to pieces. Remember that they want a great reset. You can only reset everything if you blow it all up. Now, I'm not talking about the nuclear war aspect of it, because a lot of people don't believe in nukes. Whether you do or whether you don't, they don't need any of that type of stuff because they've got enough magnetism in the sky to create an EMP on their own with the technology that they have. They don't need a nuclear bomb. They have enough stuff going on now where they can cause massive starvations without nuclear bombs. They're doing all this stuff without it. It's just the illusion of that threat and that fear. They can create all this other stuff on their own and then just blame it on a nuclear bomb. They can create the illusion of a nuclear bomb if they want. But they're telling you it's going to be blown to pieces because this has to be reset and restarted. And the only way it can be is by destroying what's here. That's why all these satanic symbolism I've covered over the years all has to do with rebirth. Right? The phoenix rising out of the ashes. What do you think that has to do with? It has to do with the destruction and what's to come. The Shiva, the Kali, outside of CERN. All the satanic symbols and stuff always have the same meaning at the end of the day. And that's a rebirth, infinite, right? The infinity sign, that they're going to be infinite. Rebirth. There's going to be a rebirth, a spiritual rebirth, they believe. Which will be obviously a worship of the Antichrist, which people will do because they will fall in line with what they're told and comply because they're going to want their toys back because they're spoiled brats in this world. They've created this through Hollywood, through the television, through the media, through the news. They have groomed and groomed and groomed, and the people have never been more ripe for the picking. And that's why people like us have to stand up, be smart, be aware, and know what's coming. And so I'm trying to warn people to be prepared for this because mentally you have to be strong because when they do this stuff to their own citizens, one, you cannot fall into the narrative of thinking that it's some boogeyman over in Russia because you need to realize that the government wants to take control of you. And the only way to stop this, well, I can't say that here on YouTube, but you can imagine the only way to stop it. And when the smoke clears after the next phase is done, then there'll be time for people to rise up. But we have to get through these phases together. Everybody has to figure out how to survive these phases and not give in and fall in line with what the government wants you to do, which is to go to them for food and go to them for water and go to them for compliance. This is the time now to prepare for it. So Trump talking about this stuff, it's not a huge surprise, but this is what they do. They constantly tell you what's coming. And now they're telling the people who are all right-wing, oh, it is going to come, it is going to come. And that's because they want them to be ready to blame it on liberals and Democrats. They're never going to be able to get to these politicians or any of these people who are doing it. They're going to be underground, way underground, which I'm covering in another video. Way underground. They're not just going to be in like in a basement. I mean, they're going to be hundreds of feet underground. You are not going to be able to get to them, and they're going to be protected by the military. So what are people going to do? They're going to take it out on each other because they're going to be going nuts. And how are they going to take it out on each other? With all the divisions that they've created over the last 10 years or so. And brought back, like racial division, gender division, feminist movement. And of course, it all ties into the left versus right, because that'll be the ultimate civil war that they want, and they've told us they want, through all of the programming with Civil War movies, with Purge movies. It's all written on the wall. The smoke is clearing, and we're about to see everything go down. And I'm not saying it's going down this week or next month. I don't know when. I'm not on the inside, but we know it's happening before 2030. Because that's when the reset starts in 2030. So the window is now. Be prepared and be, more than anything, you need to be mentally alert, mentally aware, and mentally strong. That's what's really important here. And of course, the most important thing is staying strong in your faith, but being strong as far as being able to handle what's coming. Because a lot of people will be weakened and want to give in. And remember, when all this stuff does go down, who's doing it? And that's Big Brother doing it to its own people. That's numero uno of importance, because people around you are going to need, if you want to unify people and get out of the left-right divide, there will be a window when this stuff goes down. If you can talk sense into people. But unfortunately, they're laying all the mind control, bullet points right now about who's responsible, China and Russia, and they want you to go after the left to go after the right and the right to go after the left. That's what they want. They've wanted civil war for a long time. We've seen the Predictive Program, dozens of videos about it. Now we're seeing it come to fruition.